it is a mixture of self-interest and the interest of education, in which I have wondered sometimes. I've been very sad, sometimes I'm quite happy. But why is it that this message does not spread throughout the world? I really don't.
We have time for one more question.
Professor, you have said something that makes me think about the future of maybe Parsi community in specifically. You said Zarathustra talked to a tribe. And as you all, and one more thing, I'm a Moabit and I never took any thing against what you just said about the Moabites being the enemy of the Prophet. What I'm going to take from it to make sure my Moabites and myself don't do that.
I don't think we need Zarathustra to come back. His message is there with us. Why don't we just think about it? Just think.
There's one more question.
Maybe we could turn this thing a little bit, and maybe those who cannot see the screen at all could move over here, because much of what I'm going to be saying will be depending on the visual rather than the oral.
Go ahead.
Thank you for being here, and thank you, all the organizers of this conference, for inviting me to speak to you. I shall present here today some reflections on the ancient Zoroastrians, perception of the Old Avesta, and I wouldn't really call them second-rate citizens of Zoroastrians. I disagree with that. In quite a distant past, when the texts were composed, which are now gathered in the Young Avesta. This is a collection of texts which contains the Yasna, which incorporates the Old Avesta, and I'm telling you things you know, the Vendidad and the Nirangistan, which I shall be talking about here, as well as many other texts. The Old Avesta contains the 5 Gathas, but also the Yasna Haptangaiti, which is inextricably linked with the Gathas in contents, language, and literary form. According to the Zoroastrian tradition, these texts, which were brought down to this world by Zarathustra, differs from the Gathas in being a hymn purely in praise of Ahura Mazda and his creation, while the Gathas both praise Ahura Mazda and his creation, which is light and life, and scorn and attack those who belong in the other camp, those who promote darkness and death. In fact, the Yasna Haptangaiti is explicitly said not to be about scorn and exclusion, but about praise and welcome. The concept of praise, which Professor Irani also talked about, is crucial because it contributes decisively to placing Ahura Mazda back in command of the world as its ruler and healer. Similarly, scorn or blame deprives the evil rulers of their command and makes them fall back into their dark abode at the bottom of the bound to notice that smaller or greater parts of the Gathas and the Yasna Haptangaiti are cited throughout the Young Avestan text in various contexts and with various functions. In this slide, you have a table of the Yasna and the quotations from the Gathas and the Yasna Haptangaiti. There are about 100 of them, fairly equally divided between the Gathas and the Yasna Haptangaiti. This means, of course, that the Yasna Haptangaiti, being a relatively short text, is much better represented than the Gathas, which is perhaps not so surprising since the Yasna Haptangaiti is also a Yasna. In this presentation, I shall show how such citations function in the various Young Avestan texts by examples drawn from the Yasna, the Vendidad, and the Nirangistan. Functions were, but also that they regarded these texts as meaning much more than the words meant literally. Let us start with the yasna. This is the text that presumably was originally recited only during the morning ritual. Together with the actions of the priests, it performs the ritual rebuilding and regeneration of the cosmos according to Aura Mazda's blueprint for the ritual. The ratus, which are basically the individual elements in Professor Irani's rational scheme of the world, as he performed it to produce the two worlds, this world and the other world. According to the tradition, Aura Mazda's ritual was first re-performed in this world by Zarathustra and has since then been, as in this slide, to place Aura Mazda and his fellow divine beings back in command of the universe so that they can heal the world, the Ahu, sickened by the forces of darkness and death, to make the sun rise to warm the earth, to make rains fall, to make the earth fertile, to provide good things for all living beings, and in particular to provide the priest with a handsome salary. According to the Gathas, this process is a birth or rebirth, and the newborn cosmos is the new life, the Ahu, as we see here in the Ushtavaiti. To achieve this, the priest sends his sacrifice together with his good thoughts, words, and deeds up to Aura Mazda, together with a supreme gift, his life breath to be. I shall now go through the table I just showed you, which shows where the older Western texts are cited, and make some comments on just a few quotes as I go along. The actual beginning of the yasna is the Frastuye, I send forth by my praise, in which several crucial themes are mentioned, among them the triad, good thoughts, good words, good actions, a dichotomy, praise or welcoming of good things versus scorn or blame of evil things, the sacrifice's gift of his own life, breath, and body for the purpose of making the new life or the new world frasha. The introduction we have in the Frastuye is matched by that of the Yasna Abdanghaiti. Both start with the triad, thought, speech, and word, followed by the dichotomy, are specified as the recipients of the sacrifice and the hymn, presented as a gift of the sacrifice's own body and life breath, offered with his thought, speech, and work, and also with his desire to produce the new life. The first to do these things was, of course, Zarathustra, as stated here in the Ahunavaiti Gatha, where we have the first Gothic quotation in the Yasna, a phrase that will be quoted repeatedly throughout the Yasna. Zarathustra was also, according to the Yasna, the first to seek the new life. The implication is that in order to give life and body to the macrocosmos, the introductory part of the Yasna concludes with the hope that by satisfying Aura Mazda and scorning the evil spirit, and you note again the dichotomy, praise and blame in another form, the most perfect new life may be produced as a worthy exchange gift, with a quote from the end of the Spentamanyu Gatha. As you see, you guys could go down and sit there too. Okay. I have rendered the term frasha here as fertile, which is a very rough approximation of its full meaning. In my opinion, the term implies fullness of the juices, as it were, of fertility and fecundity caused by the sun's and rain's effect on the earth-ordered cosmos. The first part of the yasna proper begins with yasna 1 to 7, in which the elements needed for the reordering of the cosmos are enumerated according to Aura Mazda's blueprint, which contains all the models or ratus. It also contains the praise of the Creator and request for rewards, most of them quotes from the Yasna Hatanghaiti, several of which will be repeated throughout the Yasna. In Yasna 4, we have the first of many extended quotes from the Yasna Hatanghaiti. This quote is from a description of the life-giving immortals, the Ameshaspentas, and I'm showing it here as an example that the old Avestan quotation was adapted grammatically and correctly to the preceding. It's going to be a little bit technical at times, but I thought that was the nature of this gathering. But in the yasna, in the dative plural as indirect object. After the preliminary introductions of all the elements involved in the re-engendering of Aura Mazda's world, the new day, but before the priest starts consecrating them in Yasna 6 with Yasamaide, Yasna Hatanghaiti 37, Yasna 37 is inserted with its sacrifice to Aura Mazda, the creator, followed by quotes with requests for rewards, introduced by a quote again from the Uttara Gatha. As you see, the quote from the Yasna Hatanghaiti with praise of the creator